Smash that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, or if you want to see more R8 content like you just saw. Yeah, if you haven't guessed by that or the title of the video, today's all about this guy. So I owe you guys a running cost slash cost to own an R8. I did one of these videos a while back and it was just trash. It was really bad. The audio was jacked. I didn't really include many details, wasn't really organized. So as you can see by my paperwork, and I hate paperwork, I'm trying to be a little bit more organized with this to give you guys a little bit more of an in-depth slash accurate look at what it actually costs to own one of these. So this is my second R8. I had a V10, 2010 R8 V10 that I had before this. Then I went Porsche Turbo, then I went C63 Black Series, then I went back to the R8, which just goes to show how awesome this car is. But anyway, let me set this up here. Yeah, let me set this up and we'll have a good chat on this. Alright, so one of the reasons I wanted to do this video, I mean, pretty simply, the R8s, especially the V8 and especially in automatic, the prices are really dropping on those. Actually, they've already dropped. I don't know if they're going to drop much more, but you can pick up a used R8 V8 in the R-tronic, which I don't recommend at all. I absolutely hate automatic transmissions. It's a single clutch, it's very jerky, but if you're okay with that and that's your thing, then by all means do it, because you can pick up a V8 R8 in an R-tronic version with, you know, 30 plus, 40 plus thousand miles for in the 60s, mid to low 60s, maybe 50s if you're really pushing the mileage, which if it's been well maintained, and you have all the records, documentation, and you can tell it's been taken care of, I wouldn't really hesitate on that. Even the V10s, that's a different story, but the V10s are definitely below 100 now. With some miles that are in the mid to low 90s. It is winter time, so it's a good time to pick something like this up. But with that being said, I don't see either the V10 or the V8 dropping much more. The manual version, like I had in both, is what I would stick with. The manual version on both cars is going to be a little bit more of a premium. The V8 version, which mine is 6-speed with around 20K, 25,000 miles, 25K. It looks like going or market value for one of those is in the mid to low 70s, somewhere around there, depending on the options, depending on the color, depending on just that type of things, maintenance records, things like that. So anyway, like I said in the beginning, I made one of these videos before and I got called out, and I deserved to. The video was trash, so I didn't include any details. I'm doing my best to do this one a little bit more organized so you can really get a feel for what these things cost to own, because as the price drops on these, more and more people are going to become interested in getting one of these for maybe their first supercar, maybe they're upgrading their car, maybe they're moving from like an S2000 or an M3 or something like that into one of these, and they want to know, because at the end of the day, this is a 10-year-old car. It's a 2009. So there are going to be some issues with it. There are things that you're going to want to look for and things that you need to know about them. So with that being said, let me get into it. Alright, so if you guys haven't seen the Sam Crack video, he has I believe same year, same everything, black 2009 R8 V8. I don't know how many miles, but long story short, one of the main things that you want to get looked at with these cars is the frame on this car, because the 2008s, 2009s, I believe that was it, had an issue of the frame actually cracking. Now, I thought there was a recall done. Sam actually corrected me and said there wasn't a recall done, but there was something issued by Audi that you could have them do to prevent anything from happening. Either way, if you're gonna get one of these, PPI. A PPI for this car is gonna be around the same amount as it would be for any type of sports car. I just had this PPI'd for a potential buyer and it was around 250 bucks. So, the next thing, beyond the frame cracking, the next thing you're gonna wanna do if it has stock suspension is get the mag ride suspension looked at. The mag ride suspension for these cars is probably the most common failing point of the cars once they start to get up in mileage. And the mag ride suspension, if you don't know, it's not cheap. So if you're looking at these cars for the first time and it has factory suspension, get the mag ride checked out because one strut is going to cost around $2,000, and they start to leak roughly 25,000 miles, somewhere around there. Now there have been cases where they last for much longer than that, they're fine, but generally speaking, if they're gonna leak, they're gonna start to leak around the high teens, low 20 mile mark. Again, I'm not an expert in this. I say this in all my videos. This is just what I've learned from owning these cars for, well, maybe 2006. Actually, yeah, so I've owned this car since late 2016, early 2017. So around 2 years-ish, a little more than 2 years. And the V10 that I owned, I probably owned for around the same 2 years. And just so you know, out of all the sports cars I've had, these are the ones that I've kept the longest, which says something because they're awesome, awesome cars. If you're gonna buy one of these cars, obviously tax, title, registration, that's gonna vary per state. In Minnesota, when I bought this, so in Minnesota, I purchased this out of state. I brought it back into state and then registered it. I have the purchase price as a good number, but it's not a number you need to be concerned with because that's gonna vary per state. And in Minnesota, it's 6.5% sales tax. So just think if you're spending, let's call it $50,000. Let's call it $50,000 hypothetically. If you buy this car for $50K, you're going to be paying close to $3,650 for tax, registration, transfer tax, sales tax, things like that. So they're not cheap. Say you buy it for $80,000 and your sales tax is a little more, you're gonna be walking out of the DMV or wherever you go to register these things for, you know, $4,500, somewhere around there, $5,000 maybe. Tax it on there, right? It's not cheap, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you go buy a brand new C63, you're gonna be paying more. Brand new M3 is like $100K these days. So that's all relative because that's going to vary state by state. So the first thing I had done to this car when I got it was, and something that a lot of you guys are going to probably have done if you're looking at these, because it's a very common thing. Now, just so you know, my car does have the Stasis Challenge Extreme package on, which includes suspension, brakes, sway bars, and a supercharger. So when I got the car, it was in the winter and there was a little bit of belt squeal. Now from owning it over a few winters, I've noticed it's just more common in the winter that the belts squeal on this. I don't know what it is, if that's common for most cars, but in the winter the supercharger belt has a little bit of a squeal when it starts up and then it goes away. It had the supercharger on it for probably close to 10,000 miles, maybe 12,000 miles. So I wanted to get the belts and pulleys changed. While they were in there, I also wanted them to do a carbon cleaning because it was close to 20,000 miles on the clock on this, and from what I read, a carbon cleaning was about 20Ks when you need it done. So the carbon cleaning for mine, because there's a supercharger, is a little more expensive. Because like it says on here, they have to remove the supercharger to do the carbon cleaning, which then adds more time. Since I did have them replace parts as well, like the intake manifold gasket, I had them replace that. The supercharger belt tensioner pulley, I had them replace that. That was $250. Supercharger belt idler pulley, that was $200. Secondary idler pulley, that was $200. Supercharger gaskets, those are $50. So altogether, the carbon cleaning and replacing the belts and pulleys for this came out to $2,321. Now that was done 2 years ago. Okay, that was one of the most expensive things I had done for this. So again, that kind of goes to show I didn't need to do that. That was all by my choice. So if you're worried about possibly incurring that amount of or those types of charges, I wouldn't be, because that was something I did under my own accord. I didn't need to have that done at all. At the very least, I could have just done a carbon cleaning and not replaced anything else, but since I was in there, I wanted to do that anyway. So again, the carbon cleaning with the supercharger, replacing the belts and pulleys, was $2,300, call it. If you just want a carbon clean, I've seen prices without the supercharger and without all those extra parts for around $800 to $1,000, which that makes sense. Okay, here's something that's a little bit more common. This isn't Audi. German cars are known to have some oil leaks. There was a minor leak that had existed between the dry sump and oil feed line. Cannot be certain due to oil from other sources. Junction should be checked at next oil change. So what they did is replace an oil filter housing gasket and valley pan gasket. The parts for this were cheap. The parts were $140. If you can do this on your own, more power to you. If you can't, the labor for this was about $1,000. So altogether it was around $1,200 with tax. Then they did an oil change and they kind of degreased the area too, so they could, if that was the area that was leaking oil, they'd be able to tell, which it was, and they fixed that. If you're curious, stasis is no longer in existence. Stasis isn't around anymore. But the Stasis Challenge Extreme Pack, which I told you comes with, also comes with wheels. I don't have the wheels, but it comes with wheels, brakes, sway bars, supercharger, carpets, things like that. That whole package from Audi installed was $23,731. That's a big one. That's a high ticket item. But nowadays, 99% of you guys, if you're gonna supercharge your car, you're gonna go to VF. I mean, this is just a rebranded VF unit from all of my knowledge. Okay, things like this. An alignment. I did a track alignment to this car. It was $150. You're really not going to pay that much more for these cars. I probably could have gotten it done for $100 elsewhere, but I just wanted to go to these guys. They do a really good job with alignments, so it was $150. That last oil leak I told you about, that was early in 2017, kind of close to when I bought the car. When I moved down to Austin, Texas, I had it checked out by another shop, and this was roughly 8,000 miles more. We noticed a small other oil leak, and it was transmission, inspect rear main seal. Upon inspection, found timing cover bolts leaking, resealed cover bolts. Again, the parts for this, very, very inexpensive. The labor, however, was $3,647. So just to fix that, basically the timing cover bolts leaking, that small oil leak that barely leaked at all. It was minuscule at most. But I just want to make sure this car is always in tip-top shape. That was $3,600. It's all labor. Again, the parts for this, generally speaking, now I'm not saying the parts for this are going to be the same as your Toyota Corolla or your Honda Civic or anything like that. They're definitely going to be more expensive, but if you're accustomed to German cars, they're not going to be exponentially more. There's not like a Ferrari tax on that. And I'm talking mostly in regards to mechanical parts from my experience. Now, if you're starting to talk about like carbon fiber interior pieces or things like that, yes, they're going to be more expensive. But in regards to maintenance, mechanical, and all of those types of fees you might incur, they're generally speaking, they're not that bad. Where you get hit the most is the labor to have these things properly taken care of. So for me, another thing someone complained or wanted to know about was insurance. That's going to vary. I'm 33 years old. I have 0 tickets. I have nothing on my record whatsoever. I pay roughly $120 a month, I believe, for insurance on this. That's not too bad. I'm sure I could get it cheaper somewhere else. I have everything bundled together though, and I have a bunch of stuff on there. So at this point, that just is what it is. So these wheels are OZ Superleggera, the ultra wide deep dish. Oh, they're the Ultra Leggera. And when I got these, I needed new rear tires. These are Pirelli P0s. They're 305/30s in the back, and I believe 235s in the front. Yeah, so the rear tires for this were roughly 350 bucks a piece. The front tires, I want to say, were around 250, somewhere around there. So I mean, again, you're paying roughly 700 for a set of rears, 500, so 1,200-1,300 bucks for all 4 tires. If you're trying to compare these prices to, say, like a Honda Civic or something like that, they're going to be more expensive. But when you start getting into tires that are 305, 295 plus, just really wide, meaty tires, paying 300-400 bucks a tire is going to be common unless you go with something completely crap, which I wouldn't recommend at all. The other things I've had done to this were the German Rush rear diffuser and rear wing. Those were basically the only aesthetic aftermarket things I've done besides those wheels. Oh yeah, those wheels I got used on a forum, and I believe I got them for about 1,500 bucks, which was a really, really good deal. But the German Rush, the carbon fiber parts, definitely not the top of the line carbon fiber parts for this car. The wing went on well. It doesn't fit perfect. And I want to say I paid roughly 1,200 bucks for that. And the diffuser, that was kind of a pain to install. I had a shop do that because that one was definitely it ended up being a pain, and that was around 1,200 bucks. Those carbon fiber pieces are definitely more than you're going to be paying for front lip on just your normal, like my 1995 M3. It's going to be more than that. For my E36 M3, my plastic front lip was 100 bucks or something like that. It's super cheap. I haven't had to have brake pads replaced. I put probably 12,000 miles on it. I haven't had to have rotors replaced. I've had the brake fluid flushed and had high temp brake fluid put in for track days, and that wasn't too much, or that was a couple $100 bucks. Beyond that, if you're talking about things like oil changes and stuff that you don't want to do on your own, yeah, they're going to be more expensive. An oil change on this, I want to say, is around $250. You think about it, it's using a lot more oil. There's 3 drain plugs, I believe, so there's more time and maintenance to do it. They have to drop the rear undercarriage pan on the car. So if you're thinking about it and you're taking those types of things into account, it's really not too much more than you should expect for a car like this. There's just more time to do this stuff, and if you can do it on your own, then you're going to save a ton of money, and it's really, the cost is not going to be bad. Again, I have had 2 major repairs to this. One was self-inflicted. I wouldn't even call it a repair. And it was that 2,500 bucks for the carbon cleaning for all belts, pulleys, tensioners, that type of stuff to be replaced. Didn't need to be done. The other one was that oil leak that they had to track down, diagnose, and then fix. And it was 22 hours of labor just to do that. The parts on that repair alone were under $200-300. The repair itself and the time spent was roughly $3,000. I've had that done once in the 2+ years of ownership with this car, and my other car had 0 issues whatsoever. I'm not gonna go over things like gas mileage and things like that, because on these cars, you can get good gas mileage if you want. Are you going to? Come on. Exhaust systems. This is a good one. On my V10, from the factory it sounded okay. Put the Akrapovic titanium exhaust on that. That exhaust system for the V10 was around $11,000. That's by far the most I've ever spent on an exhaust. Now on the V8, yeah, so when it comes to exhaust systems, things like that, upgrades, I'm not going to dive too much into it because A, I haven't done it. Mine came with the Stasis exhaust, and B, it's preferential, so whatever you choose, based off of your ear or whatever you like the look of. But generally speaking, you can get them for cheap ones that I wouldn't recommend, for around $1,000 up to, what do you want to spend? $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. You can spend up as much as you want. You can spend. I mean, you can't spend $1 million on an exhaust. Maybe you can, I don't know. But you get what I'm saying. Man, overall, as these cars get a little cheaper, be wondering how much do you need to have in the bank to drive one of these. And I mean not in the bank like your liquidity, I mean in the bank in case something goes wrong. And if you can buy this car, whether it be on a loan, however you get it, if you can buy it, for me, I would say have at least $5,000 in the oh shit fund, just in case. Again, for the most part, I really truly think you're gonna be okay. Again, $200 oil changes, $250 oil changes if you get it done. You can do it on your own. But you know, that would be if you get an oil leak, if something happens, if, again, the most common things are the failures for like the mag ride suspension, the frame cracking is not super common, but it does happen. You know, I had a 10-year-old battery that just died, and when that happened, my driver's side window wouldn't go down, so I thought there was a window regulator issue because I didn't see any low voltage. Changed the battery and everything was good. I mean, that was, you know, it was just more. It's a huge battery up front. It was a couple $100 for the battery. But again, the battery's literally twice the size of my M3 battery. So that's to be expected. But if you're gonna get one of these and you're stretching to do it, and you figured out a way to buy it, you figured out a way to own it, I would say have $5,000 in the bank just in case something happens. Odds are you're probably not going to need it, and you may not need it all at once. Maybe you need $2,000 for carbon cleaning or something, but I would say just have that. I don't think you need 10, 15, 20K for this car as a oh shit fund. I think you're fine with 5. That's my opinion. I don't drive this every day. Could I? I definitely could. It's a little bit too low to drive every day, so if you're gonna drive one of these as a daily driver, don't slam it because you'll rub everywhere. I mean, overall, guys, I did my best to sum up how much this costs to kind of maintain, you know, with oil changes, things like that. And then if you do get oil leaks, are probably going to be your most common repair. So if you do get those, again, you just have to know that the bulk of your cost is going to be in the labor. That's where it is with these, tearing it apart, diagnosing, fixing. The parts, relatively speaking, aren't going to be a massive amount unless it's something major. But for the most part, it's an Audi V8. It's going to be reliable if it's taken care of. As these cars drop in value, which, you know, I don't know if they're going to drop that much more, deals are going to pop up. Again, like I said, I think most of the deals are going to be in the automatic cars. And if you don't mind an automatic, you can pick up a great deal. I would definitely stick with the 6-speed. The 6-speed's amazing in this car. The gated shifter's amazing. I would definitely stick with that. As I get to this price point right now, we're in their upper 60s, mid 60s, low 70s, somewhere around there. Man, they're bargains right now for what they are. I can't picture them dropping much more. Anyway, I hope that video was better than my last one. I hope I went into more detail that you guys were looking for, but leave a comment down below. Let me know if there's something I missed out on, something you're curious about, or yeah, something that I just forgot to mention. So if you're new to the channel, guys, smash that subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. I have some cool stuff coming for the M3. As you can tell, it's not here right now. I'm getting something done to it. It's gonna be cool. So anyway, smash that subscribe button, smash the like button. I would really appreciate it. I'll see you next episode. Peace.